You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey everybody, if you're brand new, we are The Bible Guys. I am Chris and this is Jeff.
Howdy, howdy.
And notice that his name is first. The Bible Guys with Jeff and Chris. It's right above me.
Oh, yeah.
Where is it at?
That's really
Jeff
good.
and Chris. Yeah. Why isn't it Chris and Jeff, Jeff?
Well, I think we know why. So do our listeners. There's the Bible guy, and then there's the Bible guy.
It's his companion. It's the Bible guy and his companion named Chris.
Yeah, I think our listeners know. We should just ask them.
It's so funny. All right. Well, now that we have that out of the way, and everybody knows, we're going to go ahead and move right into a segment called, Desiree wrote this, called Thanksgiving Storytime. She writes, Happy Thanksgiving, which, by the way, that means this is going to play on Thanksgiving, right?
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Because this is a week before for us.
Right. Yeah, we're shooting it the week before.
Yeah.
Which sometimes we shoot it several weeks in advance.
Yes.
But we've both been out of the country and we've
quite a bit.
Had to
so
play,
we're missing.
Had to play catch up. Mm-hmm. So happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Woo! Oh my goodness. I can't believe we both did that. That is crazy. That is some seriously crazy stuff.
There we go.
Let's share stories of a funny, embarrassing, or memorable moment that happened on a Thanksgiving over the years.
Okay.
So you have a story?
So our Thanksgivings are rowdy. Are yours? Do you guys have
No, the opposite is true.
When we gather around, my mom always likes to cook a lot. And lately, the last several years, I've done the turkey, and Bonnie and I help out. And then hopefully my brothers' families come in and we all kind of gather around my mom and dad's house. And then whatever brothers are there, I'm the oldest of the four brothers. Whatever brothers are there, it's just cutting up and laughing, and then it gets louder and louder. So after dinner, we watch football. Then, and then after that, usually everybody's gathering around. They want to play games of some kind. So I'm always bringing new games to my mom, and I like games where. Have you played Ultimate Werewolf? You've played Ultimate Werewolf before,
yeah.
Right? Where everybody's trying to figure out who the werewolves are versus the villagers, and there's a lot of accusing and yelling and that kind of thing. Yeah. So I have a game like that I bought from my mom called the Donner Dinner Party, and it's essentially the same, where you're trying to figure out who the cannibals are and who the regular pilgrims are, not pilgrims, but pioneers are in the thing. And I bought it just to find out which one of my mom's kids would she eat first. On the thing.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So on Thanksgiving dinner, we made my mom a cannibal. So yeah, not for real.
Right.
But,
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was fun.
Oh, that was
It wasn't me. It was Mark.
There you go. That is so great.
The next one down from me.
Wow.
Because she loves me.
Of your 27 brothers.
Yeah. I have four brothers.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my Thanksgiving story.
Yeah, 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, you have how many sisters? How many sisters?
6.
Right.
6 older sisters.
Yeah. It's just a crazy amount of siblings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So here's my Thanksgiving story. When I was 12 years old, I went over to my grandmother and grandfather's house. Actually, they managed a U-Haul storage facility.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So there's an apartment that was on site. Mm-hmm. So that's where they lived. So we would go over there and have Thanksgiving, and it was, we shared holidays, right? So, because my mom and dad were divorced, so this was sort of my dad's holiday, and he chose to spend it with his father and mother. So, my cousins were there from my dad's side, who were the cousins that we spent the least amount of time with. Okay. So anyway, my uncle...
For good reason?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I'm trying to be gentle.
Uh-huh. Sure.
So, and we sort of don't understand his side a lot, okay? We don't...
Sure.
We don't mesh a lot, okay? So anyway, what ends up happening is my uncle, whatever his name is from Tennessee, Uncle John and Aunt Kay come up from Tennessee, and they have this big sheepdog. And I'm talking the biggest thing you've ever seen. When I was 12, he looked like a giant. And everybody was scared of him. And so I'm I go over to pet him, and Uncle John says, it's okay. It's all right. And he was bigger than me, at the time. And so I got down on my hands and knees, and I leaned up right to his face. And he said, it's okay. And I reached out my hand, and I went to go pet him. And as soon as I was right around to touch him, my other cousin, Dustin, comes running around the corner and decides to run and tackle the sheepdog like a horse. Mm-hmm. And so the sheepdog freaks out and bites me. And I currently have 12 stitches right here. Wow. So you can see.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, there's a little bit of scar there. Yeah.
Yeah. So the scar.
It's hideous.
It is hideous. Grotesque.
For our listeners, and I can't even make eye contact anymore.
And I'll never forget how the dog jumped at me and was like, rawr, 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 and just literally ate my face.
Wow.
And had 12 stitches across.
Well, happy Thanksgiving.
18 stitches across my jawline. And that was my Thanksgiving.
Wow.
Yeah. And
you can barely see it now.
And it stained my my jacket, my red jacket. I had to throw it away.
Oh, poor guy.
It was red blood, but didn't quite match.
Wow.
Different shades of red.
So you got eaten by a dog.
Yes.
And my brother got eaten by my mom.
Oh, there you go. Hey, that was random.
Yeah.
And by the way, speaking of random, this chapter is filled with random quotes.
Good job.
Yeah, I mean, just absolute, total one-liners that are randomly put into the same chapter.
From chapter 10 to chapter 22, it's literally one or two verses, one-liners. They're not even connected a lot of times, the ideas. It's just ideas. It's like he's writing down, oh, here's a good idea, here's a good idea, here's a good idea, here's a good idea, right? So that's what these are, and I love them. I quote, I think, from these next dozen chapters, I quote from these probably more than, with regard to practical living, than any other passages in the Bible. So they're great. Here's what it says. A wise child, chapter 10. Isn't that right we're reading?
Yep, chapter 10.
Proverbs chapter 10. The Proverbs of Solomon. A wise child brings joy to a father. A foolish child brings grief to a mother. Tainted wealth has no lasting value, but right living can save your life. The Lord will not let the godly go hungry, but he refuses to satisfy the craving of the wicked. Lazy people are soon poor. Hard workers get rich. A wise youth harvests in the summer, but one who sleeps during harvest is a disgrace. The godly are showered with blessings. The words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. We have happy memories of the godly, but the name of a wicked person rots away. The wise are glad to be instructed, but babbling fools fall flat on their faces. People with integrity walk safely, but those who follow crooked paths will slip and fall. People who wink at wrong cause trouble, but a bold reproof promotes peace. The words of the godly are a life-giving fountain. The words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. Hatred stirs up quarrels, but love makes up for all offenses. Wise words come from the lips of people with understanding, but those lacking sense will be beaten with a rod. Wise people treasure knowledge, but the babbling of a fool invites disaster. The wealth of the rich is their fortress. The poverty of the poor is their destruction. The earnings of the godly enhance their lives, but evil people squander their money on sin. People who accept discipline are on the pathway to life, but those who ignore correction will go astray. Hiding hatred makes you a liar. Slandering others makes you a fool. Too much talk leads to sin. Be sensible and keep your mouth shut.
That's great.
Says the guys with a podcast.
Right.
The words of the godly are like sterling silver. The heart of a fool is worthless. The words of the godly encourage many, but fools are destroyed by their lack of common sense. The blessing of the Lord makes a person rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. Doing wrong is fun for a fool, but living wisely brings pleasure to the sensible. The fears of the wicked will be fulfilled. The hopes of the godly will be granted. When the storms of life come, the wicked are whirled away, but the godly have a lasting foundation. Lazy people irritate their employers like vinegar to the teeth or smoke in the eyes. Fear of the Lord lengthens one's life, but the years of the wicked are cut short. The hopes of the godly result in happiness, but the expectations of the wicked come to nothing. The way of the Lord is a stronghold to those with integrity, but it destroys the wicked. The godly will never be disturbed, but the wicked will be removed from the land. The mouth of the godly person gives wise advice, but the tongue that deceives will be cut off. The lips of the godly speak helpful words, but the mouth of the wicked speaks perverse words. So it's just wise sayings.
Yeah. Yep. And really, I mean, goodness gracious, it almost seems to have a theme, which is how great the godly are and how not great the ungodly are.
How great the life of the godly will be.
Yes.
It's not that they're good people. It's that as they choose God's ways, life is going to be pretty good for them.
Yeah.
And life's going to be pretty bad for the person who rejects God's ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it almost feels like most of it has that theme going back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you have words, right? So he talks a lot about the kind of words that people say. And he says, like, the words of the godly are life-giving. The words of wicked conceal violent intentions, right? How often do we hurt people, even unintentionally? We hurt people with our words versus giving life, right? There's another one over here. Was it? I'm looking for it. The mouth of the godly person gives wise advice, but the tongue that deceives will be cut off. The lips of the godly speak helpful words, but the mouth of the wicked speaks perverse words. There's a lot of phrases in here about how important our words are. And he's always talking about how the godly build up. Now, the godly also correct. He talks about that a few different times in here. The godly will bring discipline. And was it that Dave Harrington says? Dave is really one of the wise men in my life. He's one of the key leaders at Heritage Church. And Dave said to our staff yesterday, candor is caring, right? So being clear and speaking truth is evidence that you love somebody or care for somebody. So that's in there. It's the idea that wise words come from the lips of people with understanding, but those lacking sense will be beaten with a rod. This whole chapter, it's like every third verse has something to do with wise words versus foolish words, and that wise words usually build up or bring clarity. Foolish words tear down or try to get people to do the wrong thing.
You know what these little sayings seem to do for me? They seem to be a reminder of like a 30,000 foot perspective. Because think about it, if you're in the moment, sometimes you can get swept away with foolish words or foolish moments or, like heading a foolish direction or making a foolish choice. And then, maybe the wisdom is something you just want to ignore because you just want to do what you want to do, or whatever it is. But these are principles that sort of zoom you out, and it feels like you're flying 30,000 feet. And so what he's trying to, at least for me anyway, it feels like, hey, when you're in that moment, and you need to recognize the difference between what wisdom is going to do for you to live your life in this way versus foolishness. And it feels like these are principles that help us to recognize that in the moment, choose the godly way as opposed to the ungodly way or the wicked way. And I remember, goodness gracious, back in September of 2007, we actually did a series, and it was a 4-part series called Stop. And in fact, back then, we used to have keychains. Remember back then, 2007, when everybody had keychains? Maybe people still do, right? I don't have any keychain hardly at all. But anyway, we used to, carry like the Kroger, barcode where you boop, and you have all these things on your keychain. Well, anyway, we had this thing for people to put on their keychain called Stop. And the tagline was stop. And then underneath it said, because everyone is tempted. And it was a 4-week series on temptation. And in that series, what we said is that right in the moment, when you're in the heat of the moment and you're tempted to do something, you also may be tempted to think that your action may not connect to anything else because you think that moment exists singularly in time. But the reality is that moment of weakness or bad choices or consequence, all of it is attached to so much more. So the encouragement of the entire series was this, is that before you make the bad choice, stop and pause and recognize these things are true. And here's what we said. We said, in that moment, your faith is at stake, your family's at stake, and your friends and family to some degree, and then your future is at stake. So every time that you're tempted to do the wrong thing, stop and recognize and say, okay, how is this going to affect my faith with my Heavenly Father, my friends and family around me to some degree, and then my future? And so when we recognize that this one choice, right? Hey, it feels good in the moment. I want to go rob a bank. It's going to pay my bills, right? And it's like, wait a minute, stop and realize this is connected to so many other things. And that's what this chapter feels like to me. It feels like, hey, you have to recognize that in the moment, I'm going to give you wisdom on recognizing the difference of these two things, and these are principles. They're gonna define the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's really solid. There's a lot of other themes in these Proverbs, and especially as you read through from 10 to 21 or 22, whatever it is, these chapters here. One of the other themes that comes up, and we talked about this yesterday just briefly, is the difference between lazy people and industrious people. Remember yesterday he says, "Hey, look at the ants," right?
Right.
And don't be a lazy bones.
Lazy bones, right? Jeffy.
Yeah. So here in verse 4 and 5, he says, "Lazy people are soon poor. Hard workers get rich. A wise youth harvests in the summer, but one who sleeps during harvest is a disgrace." There's other passages where it's going to talk about hard work versus verse 16. The earnings of the godly enhance their lives, but evil people squander their money, right, on sin. So there's a lot in the book of Proverbs about how to get ahead, how to build wealth, that godly people just keep working and work hard, and over time that translates into success, and that foolish people hold back. They don't do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, and they just keep hoping. There's other times when he talks about how foolish people just keep hoping that things will get better as opposed to start making things better. And I've had, people I've talked to before that were just struggling financially, couldn't get ahead, didn't like the job that they're in, frustrated with their life. And my thing is, what are you doing to make your life better? Oh, life's too hard. I've already worked too many hours. I already do too many things. And I'm like, if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you get.
Right.
If you want your life to change, you have to be that person that literally a wise youth harvests in the summer. My dad used to say, you got to make hay while the sun's shining, right? Because there's going to be a day when you can't make hay anymore, right? You can't harvest if it's not harvest season. So if you have the opportunity in front of you, grab a hold of it. That might mean a little less sleep for a year or two in order to go back to school and get that degree you need in order to get into management instead of always being on the poor side of the business, right? Or to be able to go start a new career or something. People wait around just hoping God will do a miracle. And God's like, the miracle is you woke up again today. The miracle is I've given you opportunities. You're just not seizing them. God doesn't say it's going to be easy. God says if you're a godly person, you're going to work hard, and hard workers get rich. Wise people harvest when it's harvest time. Foolish people, lazy people are soon poor. Foolish people sleep when there could be an opportunity to make more, right? And so I just think that there's something to that. The general work ethic of a godly person should far exceed the work ethic of lazy, godless people.
Yeah. And I love how in verse. I'm looking ahead. Dadgummit. I was looking down at chapter 11, verse number 1. It says, "The Lord detests the use of dishonest scales, but He delights in accurate weights."
Yeah.
Isn't that a great verse?
Yep.
Yeah, so back then they would do trade and commerce with the scales of justice, and oftentimes it was the literal weight of something, but more times it was the weight of their currency, right? And so anyway,
so the just weights were always determined by the king. Usually would have a determination as to this is the exact weight of an ounce of gold. This is it, and they would have these weights that would be approved and stamped by the government. Well, then what crooks would do is they would drill them out, lighten them, and then what would happen is that they would be able to get more money,
right? But
it would appear on the scales to be the same,
or maybe it's a scale that's lopsided or rigged.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but dishonest scales, it's really a thing that just talks about honesty guides good people, dishonesty destroys treacherous people. Again, I've just skipped ahead to chapter 11, but I love those. I love that concept, just how God is talking about integrity. He's talking about honesty, and it's just really great.
So you have this hard work theme. You have the use of your words theme, and then you have the long life theme throughout his writings, right? You're going to have a long, satisfying life if you fear the Lord, for instance, right? And then hopes. Your hopes will be granted. If you're a godly person and you're going God's way, it's amazing how often life turns out the way you hoped it would when you go God's way. And for those that are godless, life tends to always be a mystery, and it's a struggle, and it winds up, things come apart. And so, he's talking. These seem to be the three big themes: your words, your hard work, and a satisfying life. Hard work is going to produce resources. God's going to bless you. You're going to get richer. Your words, if you use them wisely, you're going to build up other people. You're going to have better relationships. If you go God's way, you're going to have a long, healthy, a satisfying life. If you reject God's way, you're going to have a hard life. Those seem to be the three major themes that he's talking here.
That's solid. You know what stands out to me? Verse number 18, where he says, hiding hatred makes you a liar. Slandering others makes you a fool. Did you notice that he didn't say that having hatred makes you a liar? He just says hiding it, which means you can have anger towards someone. You can have, but only when you harbor anger, would it turn into hatred, right?
Yeah.
And so but I love how he says hiding it is what makes you a liar. In other words, like, there's nothing wrong with dealing with anger. There's nothing wrong with dealing with conflict. That's the implication that seems to be here.
He's not celebrating hatred.
No, not at all.
He's just saying don't be fake.
Right.
Right. There is in our culture this sense of fakeness. Oh, bless his heart. And what you mean is he's such an idiot. Right. There's a sense in some of our circles and some of our cultures that we pretend, this passive aggressive at pretending to like a person when we don't, as opposed to just be honest about who you are and what you're about, right? And don't be fake. Yeah, that's a great one. I like that one. Yeah. I'll tell you the other one I like. I like lazy people irritate their employers, like vinegar to the teeth and smoke in the eyes.
Wow.
I love that one.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey, there are some times you just don't want, you have somebody that you're employing. We don't have that currently, do we?
Not currently.
No.
Not currently.
But there are times where every time you think of that person, you go, oh.
Yeah.
Right. And we do. We literally, we draw the air in through our teeth and squint our eyes like, ooh, right.
And vinegar to the teeth sometimes is, you'll pucker up with sour taste, right? Yeah. There have definitely been people I could think of, not even at Heritage. I'm thinking of like over the past 30 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We've been employers for a long time.
Yes. I can think of people for sure.
Yeah.
And
it's
like
just a funny one to me.
Smoke in the eyes.
Yeah, it's very clever. It's when you read it, it's very, you can feel it.
Right,
you can feel what he's writing. It's just very clever how he writes it there. Yeah.
That's so great. Well, hey, that's a good wrap up for the chapter, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And hopefully we'll see you tomorrow on the Bible Guys.